Yarok the Desecrated versus Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. We'll keep that. We're not going to be able to get down Baleful Strix on turn 2 unless we get into a land, but yeah, we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed that we do get into that additional land. So in the hope that we'll get into a blue or black land, we'll play out the command tower and aim for a Baleful Strix next turn. And there we are, that sets us up nicely for our Baleful Strix, so that is a nice stroke of luck there for us. That'll come down and draw us 2 cards. This isn't the Lands Matter variant of Yarok, by the way. I do have 2 Yarok the Desecrated decks. And the one I have most fun with and play the most often now is the Lands Matter version, but this is a different ETB variant, the one that I first released on the channel. The first artifact coming from Teshar, a gold mirror, so they're going to have at least 3 mana next turn. Springbloom Druid gets us in 2 more mana, which puts us on our Yarok next turn. So let's go for Springbloom Druid here. When this enters, we sack a land and put 2 basics from our library onto the battlefield tapped. So we'll grab a forest to replace the one we just sacrificed, and an island, and then we can drop a land next turn and go in for Yarok if we want to. Might as well poke our opponent for 1 because I doubt that mirror is going to be swinging in at us. A Thran Dynamo from our opponent, maybe. It would be a better idea to go for Acidic Slime, although if we go for Acidic Slime after our commander, then we could blow up 2 artifacts instead. Yeah, so let's go for our original plan and get our commander into play. That will double up the ETBs of our permanents, and then we'll swing in for 2 and pass over to our opponent again, see what they can do with all this mana. A Solemn Simulacrum, they're doing a nice job of ramping for a mono white deck. Followed by Path to Exile on our commander, we will definitely search for a basic. We'll grab another island. And then a Mentor of the Meek from our opponent. They've only got 2 cards left in hand, so even if they've got historic spells to cast, they won't have too many of those to get down once their commander's in play. Unless they manage to chain a lot of draws together into artifacts. Muldrifter's nice, I think. We just test our opponent and see if they've got removal for our commander again. We'll just hold everything back here and pass the turn over. Ancient Tomb for our opponent. They just continue to ramp and then tapping down a whole lot of mana. Yeah, I was worried about that. I knew we were playing into a board wipe, but needed to see if our opponent had it. Not to worry, we've still got plenty of cards to play. Oh, and then followed by a Faith's Reward. Yeah, that's pretty impressive from our opponent. They'll be able to pay for Mentor of the Meek as well because the Thran Dynamo will come in untapped. So they've gone from 1 card up to 3 again. And then followed by an Implement of Improvement. That is white and sack to gain 2 life. And when it's put into the graveyard from play, you draw a card. A 3 visits for us. Let's test our opponent even further on their removal. What we could do is go for Cloud of Fairies to untap the command beacon, although we'll gain mana if we cast it with our commander in play. No, I think what we're better doing is going for 3 visits, and then we can crack the command beacon and play out our commander this turn. So let's return Yarok to our hand from the command zone, and we'll cheat the command attacks. So now instead of costing 9, it will only cost us 5 to get out. Yeah, Teshar doing a very nice job of keeping us in line here. A Mind Stone from our opponent. I imagine they might crack that because they don't actually have all that many cards in hand, and they've got plenty of mana. First deciding to get rid of the Implement of Improvement. That will draw them a card. Then going for the Mind Stone as well, fishing for removal for Yarok by the looks of it. Allowing us to untap with Yarok will not be good for them. Then swinging in with the Solemn for more card draw. That tells me that they don't have anything, so we'll just allow that to come through. They may just be bluffing for some free damage, of course. Then a Sun Titan, bringing back one of the card draw effects. And then sacking it straight away. They're up to 3 cards in hand. And deciding to pass the turn. Now that draws us a card, doesn't it? When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Well, we'll draw a card twice with that. We might be able to kill off Sun Titan with that. Let's go Cloud of Fairies first of all, and we'll tap 4 lands down, because we're going to untap 4 lands with Cloud of Fairies, assuming that our Yarok stays in play. They might have a Swords to Plowshares. That enters, so we'll untap 2 lands twice, and with that we get a free Cloud of Fairies and 2 mana. Now we'll go in for Acidic Slime. And we'll try and deal with some of this mana that our opponents generated very quickly. We'll get rid of the Thran Dynamo and the Ancient Tomb. And then I might go for a copy of that with Sakashima the Imposter. Yeah, let's go for Sakashima here. It enters the battlefield as Acidic Slime. And we'll take a couple of lands away here. Now our opponent should still be able to get plenty going. They've still got 6 mana available to them, and they'll be able to get more mana out with the Sun Titan. They'll have to swing it into a Death Toucher though. So we're not out of the woods just yet, but it does slow them down considerably. They get a Scry with the Zalfurin Void. Decided to put a card on the bottom with the Scry, so they're not happy with the cards that they're getting into currently. Still after removal for a Yarok, I dare say. Now getting down their commander and drawing a card with Mentor of the Meek. Then getting down Dauntless Bodyguard as well. You can sacrifice that to have a creature gain indestructible until the end of the turn. That's to go onto their own commander usually, I would have thought. And they'll draw another card with Mentor of the Meek. Drawn quite a few with that this game. They're up to 4 cards in hand now. Then Solemn and Acidic Slime come in. We'll see what the Sun Titan grabs before we decide to block. They're going after their Ancient Tomb again. I think we'll just block with the Acidic Slime here. And we will allow the Solemn Simulacrum to come through. And then that gets rid of the Dauntless Bodyguard, because they give the Sun Titan indestructible, so that's good to get rid of from our opponent. Like to exile their graveyard though, because Sun Titan can bring this back. Then Origin Spellbomb comes into play. And Teshar, through casting that, brings back the Dauntless Bodyguard. Let's see if they want to put the extra mana from the Ancient Tomb into the Mentor of the Meek. The fact that they're considering it tells me that they've got another rock to play. And what is this? 1 tap and sack creates a Mirror token. And you can draw a card if you put white into it as well. Let's go in for Muldrifter Evoked here. We're going to draw 4 cards. Okay, eventually getting into some mana, so let's shock down that Breeding Pool. And we'll grab ourselves the Ice Fang Coatl as well. When that enters, we'll draw a couple of cards. Alright, another land to play is good. And then we've got a Duplicant, so that'll get rid of the Sun Titan next turn. Let's just try and get into a bunch of mana with the Growing Rites of Itlimoc now. Revealing the top 4 cards and whiffing on the first one. And then we get a couple of creatures there. We reveal 1. I think we just go for the Ravenous Chupacabra there. And then we'll leave things as they are. We've got 7 cards in hand. So we'll just pass over to our opponent and hope they don't do anything too crazy. Then our Growing Rites of Itlimoc flips into a Gaia's Cradle. So hopefully we'll be able to do some shenanigans with Duplicant next turn. Okay, giving Sun Titan Indestructible, and then casting Joyra's Familiar to bring the Dauntless Bodyguard back from play. Joyra's Familiar will make historic spells cost 1 less. That is artifacts, legendaries and sagas. Then paying into Mentor of the Meek to draw. Still at 4 cards now. Then sacrificing the Dauntless Bodyguard again to give their commander Indestructible. And going for a kicked Everflowing Chalice. That will come in with 1 charge counter on it. And again bringing back Dauntless Bodyguard. Sensing a theme here. At 5 cards now, thanks to the Mentor of the Meek. Gonna have to prioritise exiling the Sun Titan and Mentor of the Meek here, I think. Followed by a Filigree Familiar. When it enters, gain 2 life, and when it dies, draw a card. They are tapped out now, luckily for us. Now, I'm just wondering, I think Sakashima the Imposter, coming down as a copy of Cloud of Fairies, when we're untapping Itlimoc, can get us a hell of a lot of mana, maybe even infinite mana. Although we'd need blue, wouldn't we, so I don't suppose it's infinite. Sun Titan swinging in again. And they decide to just bring back a basic Plains with that. I think we're going to block the Solemn because we're just going to take too much damage from that over the course of the game. And the rest of it we'll just take. It's not going to be too much damage thanks to our lifelink. Hopefully our opponent doesn't draw into a Swords to Plowshares here. That's the tightrope you walk with Solemn Simulacrum. You can either take a hell of a lot of damage with it over the course of the game, or you can eventually give in and feed your opponent a card. Oh, Skull Clamp is really good. Okay, it would be really nice to get rid of Dauntless Bodyguard, but it sacrifices itself, unfortunately, so we'll play a land first of all. And we'll sacrifice the land to get into... I don't think we've got any more blue sources to grab with that. We do not, so let's just get a Bayou. Then we'll go Duplicant. And we'll hopefully get to exile a couple of creatures here. And that should stop this Dauntless Bodyguard shenanigans. Target Sun Titan with 1. And the Mentor of the Meek with the other. Successfully exiling some stuff from our opponent there. And then we'll tap down the Itlimoc for green per creature we control. So let's just go in for a Fierce Empath. And we'll search for something with a high CMC twice. I think Woodfall Primus and Progenitor Mimic is a good idea. And then I think, just to play it safe, we have to bounce the Sakashima. So that will occur at the beginning of the next end step. We'll just pass the turn over to our opponent now. They are going to have plenty of cards in hand thanks to Skull Clamp. And I'm sure they can continue to abuse the Dauntless Bodyguard. Need to exile that from the graveyard preferably. Don't know if we've got means of doing that in this deck. Deciding to sacrifice the Origin Spell Bomb. And they'll get a Mere token. I don't think they drew a card there. No, they're still at 5. So they just did that for the token, which will get a clamp onto it, no doubt. Then we discard at the end of the turn. I think we just get rid of the Sakura Tribe Elder here. Now a Thraben Inspector. That's a 1-2, so it won't die to clamp so easily. Deciding to clamp the Mere, so they go up to 6 cards there. Followed by Knight of the White Orchid. I think they've got more lands than us, so that didn't trigger. Dauntless Bodyguard giving the Joyra's Familiar Indestructible. They might be setting up for a board wipe here. wanting to make all of their own stuff indestructible. Playing a Palladium Mir and bringing back the Dauntless Bodyguard. Then a Mir Retriever, bringing the Dauntless Bodyguard back again. Mir Retriever is a really good loop enabler, especially with things like Skull Clamp. And they've got plenty of mana to draw all the cards they need. Going for a clamp onto the Mir now. And then casting a Mir Sire. And getting the gold Mir back. No doubt going for a clamp again here. Yeah, going to clamp the Mir Sire. That will bring out a token when it dies. Things to exile with Duplicant. I think we want to get rid of Mir Retriever, Joyrous Familiar. Oh, they've gone for Fountain of Renewal for free. And that brought back the Mir Sire from the graveyard. Then Sky Scanner comes in and draws our opponent a card. Yes, what do we want to get rid of? I think getting rid of Teshar is a good idea, although they've got plenty of mana to replay it. Joyous Familiar and Mir Retriever are good ones to kill off as well. And if we can get rid of Skull Clamp through all that, that would be really good. Then swinging in at us with some more stuff. That's indestructible. We don't want to block that. Teshar is indestructible as well. That is aiming for some card draw. Let's just leave things in play here because we do have some copy effects available to us. Then going for a final clamp onto the Mir Sire, which will put them back up to a full grip of 7. Alright, getting to Nissa, which can guarantee us a land drop for the turn, but I think we'll try out this Sakashima. That will come in as a copy of the Cloud of Fairies, and we'll hold priority. Tap this down for mana, and then we'll untap it with the Cloud of Fairies. We're going to gain 6 mana every time we tap down the Itlamok. And we'll untap a island as well. Then let's tap down the Itlamok and the island. And again, untap the Itlamok and the island, because that does trigger twice thanks to our Yarok. Then let's go Woodfall Primus. And we'll go to blow up the Skull Clamp. Just trying to slow our opponent down here. We'll get rid of the Ancient Tomb as well. Then we'll tap down Itlamok again. And do we want to bounce and replay Sakashima? Or we can just go for Progenitor Mimic. We're going to make use of all that mana. I think we might, so let's... Oh no, it's at the end of the turn, isn't it? So we can't do it now. That makes up our mind for us. So in that case, we'll just go Progenitor Mimic. No, we won't. Let's go Ravenous Chupacabra and try and force our opponent to use that Dauntless Bodyguard. Well, first of all, we could go for Guardian Project, I think. Try and start drawing some cards. Keep up with our opponent on the card draw front. Then I think we need to go for Nissa Vastwood Seer to guarantee a land this turn. And that will draw us some cards as well. We draw Wall of Blossoms and a land. We'll say yes to Nissa. I think we've got a couple more forests left. We've got 3 left. So there'll be 1 more left in the deck after we have fished 2 out with Nissa. Now we'll play one of our lands. We haven't played one for the turn yet. And that will flip Nissa twice. Only matters that she's flipped once. She doesn't flip over into a Planeswalker and then flip back into a creature. Let's reveal the top card, see if it's anything interesting. It is a Vampiric Tutor. That's not nothing. So we could actually go for Toxic Deluge with that. It would kill off some of our creatures, but it'd hurt our opponent much more. So let's go Vamp Tutor. We can draw a card thanks to the Guardian Project. I was planning to get the Ravenous Chupacabra out, but I don't know if we're going to bother at this point. Grab ourselves the Toxic Deluge. Then we'll play the Wall of Blossoms to draw into that. We'll draw twice from Wall of Blossoms itself and twice from Guardian Project. And one of those draws, as we all know, is the Toxic Deluge we just tutored for. Alright, an Urborg is good. That means we've got as much black mana as we like, and we've got a few black cards in the hand. Yeah, I think we've got enough for Progenitor Mimic onto Duplicant. And then we can go for Toxic Deluge, and that will be us for the turn, I think. Yeah, we'll do that, because we do want to exile some stuff here. Definitely want to get rid of Mere Retriever, make it more difficult for our opponent to get that Skull Clamp going again. That comes down as the Duplicant, making a nice job of getting round the Dauntless Bodyguard here, and that triggers twice. So we definitely want rid of Mere Retriever. We don't want that going back into the graveyard because it will trigger. And then we'll force our opponent to recast Teshar as well. Although actually, we're going to go for Toxic Deluge, aren't we? So, yeah, that was a mistake on my part. Should have exiled something else. Probably this thing, because it will draw our opponent a card, or maybe even the Joyous Familiar. Yeah, I forgot we were going for Toxic Deluge. A lot to think about here. We'll exile it anyway. And the main thing is we are successfully getting rid of the Mere Retriever. And let's go in for Toxic Deluge. We'll put 2 life into that. And our opponent's Dauntless Bodyguard will not help them here. Now they don't have a means of pumping any creatures, do they? No, that doesn't do it. Our opponent's probably got a board wipe of his own, so let's just go for this. It will get rid of our Sakashima the Imposter, unfortunately, but we've got the... where is it? We've got the Progenitor Mimic in play, so we're not too worried about that. Successfully wipe our opponent's board. And we'll be able to swing in for a little bit of damage here as well. Gain some life from the Yarok. It'll only be 1 point of life, because all of our creatures have -2, -2. But they do have 8 cards in hand now, and they may want to go for a board wipe. We're still not out of the woods yet, because they can get down there to Teshar again, and still go for this Dauntless Bodyguard stuff. Yeah, still in the graveyard there, which kind of switches off our Ravenous Chupacabra and Noxious Gearhulk. Let's just ditch the Dryad Arbor. Too slow a land to go for at this point. They gain a life from the Fountain of Renewal. And I'd be very surprised if we don't see a board wipe here. Going in for their Teshar first of all. Followed by an Expedition map. They might have Emeria the Sky Ruin if they're worried about playing things out of the graveyard. Or maybe it's just a straight up wasteland to get rid of our Itlamok. They can only play 1 land though. And they've played the Temple of the False God this turn. Now going for Burnished Heart and fetching their Filigree Familiar. And they fetch the Dauntless Bodyguard out of the graveyard as well with the Expedition map. Then playing a Wall of Omens to draw a card, so after all that, they are still at 6 cards in hand. And I didn't look, I thought we were going to get a copy of Duplicant there. Our Progenitor Mimic, I didn't look at the toughness of it. I thought it would have been a 2/4 copying the Duplicant. But somehow that's left play. I don't think our opponent did anything. Yeah, apologies if I've missed something there. We will drop the Urborg. And let's reveal the top with Nissa. We get into Runescarred Demon. I think that's going to be worth an attempt. I think first of all we'll go for Ravenous Chupacabra. And we'll try and get rid of Teshar. That will draw us some cards. We'll aim that at Teshar. I think they'll go for Dauntless Bodyguard in response to that. And we'll kill off the Burnished Heart as well, because they can get some card advantage from that as well. We draw Reclamation Sage to get rid of the Expedition map, I think is a good idea. A Venser, Shaper Savant as well. That will be good to get rid of Dauntless Bodyguard at the end of our opponent's turn. They allow the Burnished Heart to die. And they do not allow Teshar to die because they're going to give Teshar Indestructible. There's nothing we can do about that, so let's allow that to become indestructible. I'm just wondering if we've got any more copy effects for the duplicant. Then let's go Rec Sage. And we'll draw even more cards. Reclamation Sage can go on the Expedition map and the Ancient Den. And Guardian Project drawing us a lot of cards over these past few turns. Now I think we're okay to try and get our Rune-Scarred Demon going. Let's put Guardian Project on the stack first so that we aren't necessarily going to draw into whatever we tutor for. I mean, we're going to tutor for 2 cards here. We end up with the cards in our hand either way, so it doesn't really matter. Now, there's a number of times I have wished that I have access to Song of the Dryads. And this is yet another one of those times. We do not have it here, unfortunately. What do we have access to? Conjurer's Closet does it, I think. Yeah, Conjurer's Closet going on to the duplicant sounds good. The more we can keep forcing our opponent to recast the commander, the less mana they're going to have ultimately. And then for the second tutor, I think it would make sense to just go for Beast Within. Yeah, let's go for Beast Within. Because unfortunately, we can't cast the Conjurer's Closet this turn. We'll grab the last forest out of our deck. We're just going to have to hope that Duplicant stays in play at this point. Because there's nothing we can do about this Dauntless Bodyguard. Don't have any Graveyard Hate in the deck, unfortunately. Would have been nice to grab a Nile Spellbomb. Let's just throw the Overgrown Tomb in tapped. And then we'll go Birds of Paradise and pass the turn and keep our fingers crossed. Well, there's another tutor if we're desperate for something. Let's just pass the turn over here. I think we're fairly safe to give our opponent some card draw with that Filigree Familiar. We need to start threatening our opponent. What we don't want to do is lose any creatures, but we're not going to here, I don't think. So let's just swing in with those. We'll gain some life with Yarok. And they're just deciding to block with everything. We'll get some trample damage through on our opponent. And we'll get rid of Wall of Omens as well. And we'll gain 3 life. And then the Familiar will draw our opponent up to 7. Now we have to discard 6 cards. We'll get rid of some land, seeing as how we can only play 1 a turn. Then 3 more, we'll get rid of the Felwar Stone, the Coiling Oracle. And that's tricky after that. Sire of Stagnation, I think. Yeah, we'll get rid of the Sire of Stagnation. Our opponent managing to keep Teshar in play. We've got a full grip of 7. And they have access to 8, 9, 10, 11 mana. Going for Dispeller's Capsule. That will probably go on Guardian Project. It's been drawing us a lot of cards this game. Although, if it goes on the Guardian Project, then it's not going to be going on the Conjurer's Closet. And they will bring back their Wall of Omens. So, fishing for card draw as opposed to their Dauntless Escort. Or Dauntless Bodyguard, whatever it's called. Then getting rid of our Guardian project. Like I said, it's not going on the Conjurer's Closet at least. We might not make use of this next turn if our opponent wipes the board. Deciding to sacrifice the token for card draw. So they might be wiping every permanent on the board out of play here. Then a Lightning Greaves will get them some more reanimation. Now going for the Bodyguard. And Lightning Greaves is actually an issue for us because it will stop us from targeting things with duplicate, although we do have Beast Within in hand to deal with that. Putting the Greaves onto their Teshar. Followed by a Cathodian. When it dies you get some mana. Luckily for us they haven't gotten into any sack outlets throughout this entire game. Now they're going to reanimate the Sky Scanner. Never seen a white deck draw so many cards. And now they've got 1 mana held up. And it is back round to our turn. Let's drop this island. We'll plus Nissa for some more card advantage. And she's actually close to the limit break, isn't she? She can untap 6 lands, they become 6/6 elementals. And I think she just dropped another land into play there. Let's go for our little Venser trick here. We play Venser, and with Yarok in play, he bounces himself and something else. So we'll try and get that Dauntless Bodyguard out of the way. And then with the other Venser trigger, he bounces himself, like we said. Sacrificing the Dauntless Bodyguard in response. And that doesn't target noticeably. When it enters you choose a creature, it doesn't target. That's, yeah, I didn't know that. That's noteworthy, so it gets around the Lightning Greaves. But we forced our opponent to get rid of the Dauntless Bodyguard there. So now we'll go for Venser again. But this time we'll get rid of the Greaves. Bounce the Greaves. And our Venser again. And let's hold priority and tap Itlamok for mana. Well, we've got an additional creature in play. Then we'll play out the Conjurer's Closet. Oh, and as soon as our opponent sees the Conjurer's Closet, they decide to scoop, so clearly they didn't have anything. I thought they might have swords because they're holding up a white mana there. And if they did have that, they could have targeted Duplicant in response to us targeting that with the Conjurer's Closet. I was going to cast Noxious Gearhulk there and get rid of Wall of Omens and the, whatever this is, Cathodian. And then we could have swung in for some damage. They would have chump blocked again with the Indestructible Teshar. And they would have blocked with this as well. We would have gotten some more trample damage through and gained some more life. And then after that, I think it might have just been holding up Venser for more Venser shenanigans on our opponent's turn, and we would have flickered the Duplicant to exile Teshar at the end of our turn. So I think we were just starting to pull away with that one, and our opponent obviously thinks so as well. I was expecting many more board wipes over the course of that game, because our opponent can use that Dauntless Escort to give things indestructible, and if they can get into lots of cheap artifacts and keep getting that out of the graveyard, then they can give all their stuff indestructible and get rid of our board all in one fell swoop. But we managed to grind that one out, fortunately. So that's good game to our opponent. A very, very interesting Teshar deck. But we managed to pull out the victory this time. I hope you all enjoyed it because it was a fun one to play. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.